Okay, hey guys, welcome to the world of 28mm. Okay, I went shopping this afternoon and I found an interesting buy in one of the local supermarkets, and they were selling pearlescent acrylic paints. There you go. Now, I've been trying to do things like oil slicks and like chemical spills and things like that. I've never tried these before, so I thought what I'd do as one of my first videos is we will have a little sort of a terrain experiment to see how these work with water effects. Okay, I've only got the sort of shop bought stuff. You'll see lots of terrain people using things like a clear silicone sealant for water and things like that. What we've got here, as I just showed you, we've got the pearlescent paints, and it's got 5 colours. We've got red, green, blue, yellow, and like a sort of goldy, bronzy, tarnished gold, maybe something like that. Okay, and then what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is I will mix it in. We've got the water effects here by Woodland Scenics, and this is like the gluey stuff. We've got the Woodland Scenics realistic water there. Okay, we're going to mix it in with some of that and see how that works. And then I've got some of this Vallejo still water effect, which I'm trying to get rid of. So we use some of that and mix in that as well and see how these all come out. Okay, so yeah, let's nip over to the table. Okay guys, so here we are. I've set it all up here so you can see what we're using. As I covered earlier, we've got the water effects from Woodland Scenics, we've got the Vallejo still water, and we've got the 5 colours. Now, I did, in my sort of haste before doing this tutorial, I wanted to try out the green so desperately that I got straight home and threw it in some water. And this is the reason why I'm doing this experiment, is the green one didn't mix very well. I'll do it again in a minute so you can see it for yourself. So what I've got is I've got some cheap old shot glasses. I've got a couple of bits of acetate for some old blister packs that I've used. So what we'll do is we will take this one first and get it in camera. Just the normal Woodland Scenics water stuff. When you use this, make sure you don't shake it like you do your paints. Just roll it very gently. Excuse me. Just make sure that it's nice and mixed. I usually flip it over, go the other way. Okay, so once this is mixed, what we're going to do is we will stick a little bit in each shot glass, and then we will add the colour to the pigment to them, give them a good mix and see how they break up. Okay, right, that should be good to go by now. So we'll bring these forward. I'm only going to put a little bit in each because all I want to do is see how they mix. Yeah, so just a little tipple in each. There we go. That's it. Just get the bottom covered. Oh, almost missed that one. And finally, number 5. Okay. Alright, so we've got our water effect in there. It's ready to go. I'll just wipe the bottle down. And do that up nice and tight. Okay, so right, what we're going to do now is we are going to mix the paint in, but I've lost my toothpicks or any kind of applicator. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, back again. Note to self, be more prepared. Okay, so I've just been and got some toothpicks, so I've got something to stir with. I've used all my coffee stirrers on my current project, so toothpicks it is. Okay, so we're just going to take one of each colour, and literally all we're going to do is put a little splodge in each of them. Okay, so there we have it. I've given these all a good mix. We can see there's the bright yellow, and it's mixed quite nicely. It did take a good sort of 3 minutes of mixing to get it to properly mix in with the water effect. But yeah, it's sorry, hold up to the camera. It's worked quite well. We can see there's bits of sediment. I don't know if you can see that on the camera there. I need to get a new one. We've got some little bits of sediment around the edge there, but it's pretty all mixed in quite nicely. Now the interesting thing was that out of all of these 5, the blue has worked the best, or mixed the best, should I say. I think it could hold some good properties for some, I'm not sure yet, but there's definitely some potential in there. But it mixed quite nicely, 2 or 3 seconds, even with a toothpick. You know, 2 or 3 seconds, bosh, job done. And it's kept that nice pearlescent look on the top of it. So I'm thinking that you could use this as like a middle coat. So you did a normal or a dark first layer, and then put this on top, and then maybe a darken out the green. Anyway, I'm rambling now, sorry guys. Okay, so yeah, the blue mixed really well. The other ones, that they all took the we got the sort of burnished goldy sort of one here. As like the yellow, we can see some sediment on the side, and yeah, it took, see, that's sinking as we speak. That's interesting. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. But I think there's some with toning down some of these colours with some normal acrylics. I think they should work quite well, and I think if you get them right, you could have a nice sort of alien, you know, tyrannid sort of water effect. I get that on the camera, so I'm still mastering this camera thing. All this camera work. Yeah, so they all mixed pretty well. The blue one was the quickest. It took 2 or 3 seconds, bosh bosh, job done. The rest of them took a good sort of couple of minutes, 3 tops to mix. It'll probably reduce time if you had something better than a toothpick to do it with. Okay, so right, on to our next bit. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to make 5 tiny waterfalls out of this, and we'll see how they mix, and like the other water effects, we'll leave it to dry and see whether the sediment sinks to the bottom. So yeah, I'll make some little tiny blobs on the acetate here. Splodge, 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 and another good splodge. There we go. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix all this in, and then when it's all mixed in, I will come back and we will see how it's done. Okay, so here we are, guys. I've mixed the splodgy water effects, shall we say, onto this acetate, and I've mixed in all of the colours that I've got, the 5 different colours. Now they all mixed pretty much the same, to be honest. It wasn't like the liquid water effects. Once again, I'm not sure how well it shows up on camera. I'm gonna have to get a new one. But it has taken the pearlescent sort of look away from it, and it's turned them almost matte again. The green and the blue, for some reason, it made the water effects when you added it and mixed it in, it made it more stodgy. It still mixed fine, but you could tell there was a difference in consistency. It wasn't the same with the other three, with the burnished goldy stuff, the red and the yellow. Just the green and the blue. It turned it a bit more splodgy, a bit more stodgy. Could be down to the thickness of the pigment. I'm not entirely sure. But that's with this water effect. So what we'll do is I'll just do it again on this with the Vallejo still water. And this one here, down, there we are. So I'm just going to put a few little splodges onto this acetate here. Hopefully it won't run into each other, and I'll come back and we'll see how they mix. Okay, see you in a sec. Okay, so we're back, and I'm going to have to very carefully do this because it will spill everywhere. We've mixed in the 5 colours with the Vallejo water effect this time. Oh, the phone's going off, someone wants me. And they haven't, they've mixed, but I'm not sure if you can see it on camera. They've mixed, but around the edges, it's sort of separating away. Now that could be down to me putting too much paint in, or too much pigment. Let's just let's put a couple more drops in that green and just see what happens when I mix it in. Because on a side note, all of these mixes have been done with about, well, 2 drops of the Vallejo to a tiny pea-sized drop of paint. So the see, every time I try and push it to the outside, can you see what's happening? It's pushing the Vallejo water effect out again. And it's the same with these. You can see let's get that up to the camera. You can see the clear edge around the edges here, where it's sort of separated. It's starting to run a bit. So they've mixed fine initially, but you may have to keep going over it. Right, well, what we'll do now is we've seen how they mix and things like that. So we've got the woodland scenics water effects mix here. We've got the woodland scenics sploogey stuff mixed there, and then we've got the Vallejo acrylic mixed there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these dry for, we'll come back in 24 hours because that's the usual sort of standard cure time for these water effects, 24 hours. So what we'll do is we'll come back in 24 hours and we will see what happens. We will see. I'm intrigued to see what will happen with these, because I would like to see it have a clear sheen to it, but with this in the background. So what we'll do is we'll come back in 24 hours and we'll see whether they're dry, and how they've come out, and whether any sediment sunk to the bottom or anything like that. Okay, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, so here we are. I know I said I was going to do it after 24 hours, as that's the standard cure time for these water effects, but I left it another day. I went back to it the day after I recorded, and none of these water effects had dried, so I wanted to leave it another 24 hours. So we are now at the 48-hour mark, and they still haven't dried. So I just thought I'd do show you what's happened. Usually from my experience, when you put acrylic paints into these sort of water effects, it does add to the drying time because you've put extra moisture in there. Now usually if I put a bit of you know, just a Citadel paint or a Vallejo paint or whatever into a bit of water effect, it will take the drying time, depending on thickness, from about a day to about 4, maybe a week if you've put a lot of pigment in it, a lot of acrylic. So these haven't actually dried, but we can take something away from this, because as I kind of suspected, if you look here, you can see it's still wet, it's still runny, so hasn't set. Now usually, even when you put pigment in after day 2 to day 3, it usually at least goes to like a gel consistency, so you still shouldn't touch it, because you'll leave a fingerprint in it. But you can see from here that all of that pearlescent and the pigment, or some of the pigment, has just sunk to the bottom. We do, however, have a very nice, sorry, hold it up to the camera properly, we do have a very nice green semi-translucent, there you can kind of see through, you can see my finger there. But we do have quite a nice sort of toxic-y, sludgy looking stuff, which holds some potential, definitely. It's just a shame that all the pearlescent pigment has sunk to the bottom, and that has happened on all of them. I don't expect these to set. Here's the red one. See, it hasn't gelled again, but we do have some nice. It's remained see-through. It's not gone completely opaque. You can't make that out very well. Something of contrasting colour, green. There you can still see the green through it, so it hasn't gone completely opaque. So overall, yeah, I wouldn't be using these in water effects, to be honest. I might try and make something and try some of these colours out, because that is quite a groovy green, like sort of toxic spill green, but I'm pretty sure I can achieve that same colour with just a normal acrylic paint rather than a pearlescent one. But it's a shame. But yeah, so these pearlescent acrylics don't work very well with the liquid water effect with this one. So you will find with all of them, the sediment will sink to the bottom, and then you'll just be left with the coloured water effect on top. Okay, so that's the Woodland Scenics Realistic Water. Next we've got the Woodland Scenics Water Effect Splooge. Now these were the test pieces that I'd done. I made some little, you can see the grooves in them, I made some little mini waterfalls. So what I'm hoping from this is that we've still got that the translucency of it, so it hasn't gone too opaque, but we'll see. Now I've got a hobby knife here. Now because I've done this on here, it should peel off. Yeah, there we are. Let's see if we can gently scrape this off. A bit of plastic. Come on. There we are. Oh. Okay, I didn't take a lot of time over doing these, so they'll probably fall apart. Ah, darn. And unfortunately it hasn't kept translucency of it. You can see it's quite opaque in most areas, but on the upside it has kept that pearlescent look to it, if you look at the blue on the bottom or the green, they're the most prominent ones, closely followed by the yellow. So it has kept that pearlescent look. So, you know, I was considering last night what, if these worked, what we could use them for, and I mean, the blue would be quite cool in some sort of like an elven-y water effect, you know, sort of give it that sort of magical effect, you know, properties and whatnot, make it look all shiny and magical. But other than that, I'm rambling again. Okay, so these came out okay. You can still make the pearlescence out. It did change the consistency of some of them, but that really wasn't that much of a problem. So yeah, I'm happy-ish with how that came out. I'm glad it's kept the pearlescent look, but I would have preferred to have gone a bit more opaque. Now, translucent. Sorry. Now you could mix less pigment in. That might do the job. Further experiments are required. But yeah, so that's the splooge effect. So lastly, we had the Vallejo still water one that we mixed them in with as well, and these have come out quite nicely. You can see, mainly you can see my fingerprint in there to check whether it was dry or not yesterday. The green, I believe I put too much acrylic in, and that's why it took longer than the rest to dry. But they've all dried quite nicely. They're solid, but they haven't kept that, you can't see through them. So once again, maybe a little bit less pigment next time. Let's see if we can get one of these off. Should have done it on a bit of baking paper ads. Oh, it's coming. Let's see if we can just peel that off from there. Oh, are you gonna come off? No, it's gonna break. Try and just get a little bit more off so we can get a better look at it. Hold it up to the light and see if you can see through it. That'll do. Okay, so drop my equipment. So no, you can't see through it, but it has kept that pearlescent effect, and that is essentially what we're looking for. So, you know, I think if I was to use these in a project for something, I would use the Vallejo still water stuff. The Vallejo does bleed around the edges. The water effect starts, I think it says the pigment sinks into the water effect, and then that pushes the water effect out because the pigment is denser, possibly. If anyone has an answer, feel free to put it in the comments below. So yeah, I think I'd use these for things, chemical spills and things like that. If you had a nice sort of bit of colour from there, and then you could add a layer of the Vallejo still water on top mixed in with a bit of this, and you might get a nice little sheen. I will have to make something and find out. Maybe that's our next project. Okay, so I think we've covered everything. Yeah, so let's set up for the outro, and I'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, so there we have it, guys. My very first workshop tutorial thingy. We've seen the results of what happens when we mix these pearlescent acrylics in with the 3 water effects that I have in stock. And we've seen that it doesn't mix very well with the with this one that the pigment falls to the bottom. You are left with a nice little colour on top, but nothing you really couldn't make out with just a normal bit of acrylic. It holds the potential when mixed in with this, as I say. You know, it could be some very sort of sparkly, magical, elven-y water. You know how they like all their sparkly, blingy bling. And yeah, it works quite well with the Vallejo one. It keeps the pearlescent, loses the translucency, but you know, if you lay down a layer of the realistic water first, and then because this is more of a gel rather than a water like this one, the liquid, you know, you could sort of guide a sort of a runoff on top of this, mixed in with some of this pearlescent. That might work. As I say, I'm going to make something, and I'll show it to you guys, and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so thank you for watching. This has been my very first review of video full stop. Excuse the poor editing and the lighting and stuff. It will get better in time. So like it if you like it, share if you think anyone else will find this useful, and I'll see you again in a future video. Cheers guys!